All right. It says that we're live on Das Jubentuben, but I'm just gonna give it a second and check in with the YouTube stream, so we can actually like monitor.
Hmm.
We are live. Hello, everybody. It says,
Hello.
uh-oh. There we go. I'm going to mute that. So there's a little bit of a delay so for those of you who are joining us live, thank you for hanging out with us. This is really cool. Would each of you like to introduce yourselves?
Steve, go ahead.
I thought we would play rock, paper, scissors to see who would go first. Hi, I'm Steve Ferrell. Straight out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Right on.
Was that a good introduction? Was that good?
That was a great
It was fantastic.
I do things.
I like Steve that does things. I'm Zenia Mihevc. I am a clinical social worker and I am based out of Uxbridge, Ontario.
Nicely done.
That's a little bit about me.
And you folks know me, Tim Gordon. I run this YouTube channel. It's a real pleasure to have you here, especially during this really difficult time. And I do apologize for the confusion. I know that we had given a link for some people to be able to join the live stream, and there was some confusion yesterday and today with that. So I do apologize. Thanks for bearing with us. And if you are live on the chat, feel free to send us a message. There's a little bit of a delay, but I'm monitoring it live. I won't be monitoring it during our movement practice or during our meditations, because I'm going to be doing those practices along with you folks. But Steve and Zenia, I will definitely share that material with you when it comes up in the moment. Also, if you're watching this on a replay, that's totally cool. If you'd like to join us live, we're on at noon Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And we'll also in the future have an option for people to join us on the actual Zoom call. So if you're comfortable being on camera with us and debriefing exercises and checking in and just chatting about how you're doing in self-isolation and managing during this really confusing and scary time.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I really liked about the Zoom calls is being able to see some people. It's just nice to see faces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I thought as a way to get us started for today, I would guide us through a brief meditation. Is that an okay place for the two of you for us to start?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great way to start.
Yeah, totally. All right. So I'd like to invite you two to find yourselves in a comfortable posture. I'm going to do the same. You may wish to play around with the alignment of your shoulders over your hips, finding a sustainable posture. We won't do a long meditation this afternoon, just a brief one to help us settle into this space that we share. And if you're watching live, I'd like to invite you to just allow your vision to drop, go out of focus, perhaps closing your eyes if you're comfortable with that. I'd like to invite us to take a breath on purpose, breathing in together. Exhaling naturally in your own time. And as you're breathing here, noticing whatever may be showing up for you. Sensations in your body. There might be sounds in your environment. Any thoughts that may be inviting your attention to move in a different direction. Just breathe those in. Let them be in your awareness. And give yourself an opportunity to feel what it's like to be here, noticing any emotional state. And whatever you're noticing, see if you can acknowledge it, perhaps even label it. Like, there's my grocery list. And if you need to, maybe invite a little bit of motion in your body, like a wiggle of the fingers or rotation of the wrists, just to help you connect with some sensations to bring you back here to this moment. My favorite is just taking a breath on purpose, breathing in, feeling the sensations of air moving in your body. And as we're here together connecting in this space, I'd like to really just give you a moment to ask yourself, what is it that I'm experiencing right now? What is it that I'm noticing? Again, taking any movement, any gulps or sips of oxygen that you might need to just help you ground in the moment. And I have one last inquiry for you before we begin to wrap up this meditation. What is it like to notice what you're experiencing right now? Taking a breath. Just acknowledging that space between you, the observer, and what you notice. See if there's some stillness there for you. An ability to notice, to acknowledge, to breathe. And as we prepare ourselves to come to this space that we share together, I'd like to invite you to bring anything that you've noticed to this time that we have together. Bringing some motion to your body, like a wiggle of the fingers, a rotation of the wrists. Maybe wiggling your toes, rolling your shoulders up, forward, and down, moving the head from side to side. And I really mean this. You take care of you. Just fluttering your eyes open. Yeah. Noticing the two of you stretching. Awesome. I love seeing the two of you take care of yourselves. Yeah. All right. Hi, you two.
Hi.
So just by way of a debrief, what have the two of you noticed?
You can go first on this one, Zenia.
All right. So I think, well, I know what I noticed the most was this sense of urgency and rushing. Like, okay, let's get through this. I got other things to do. How long are we going to be here? I like doing this better at night. Let's hurry up and get to the night so then we can get to the next day, so we can get to the next week, so this can all be over with. Like, it's just this really like interesting push of going fast when there's nothing to go to. So it's like, and that was the other piece that came up, was this truly is, we shift perspectives and mindset right now. It's a gift of being able to really slow down and take time. And even though we're working from home and managing kids and family and other priorities, it seems that there's a little bit more space to be and to stay in this moment. But then there's that dance of, well, I don't want to be in this moment. I want to be in the next moment. And then when that comes, but I want to be in the next moment. So that was something that was super present throughout that practice for me.
Totally. Thanks, Zenia.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback off of Zenia's first, Steve, before you go?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm feeling, I love that you use that word gift, because I'm feeling super conflicted. Like I have this feeling of like just really savoring this experience of hanging out with the two of you. Two of you are like some of my favorite people in this world. And so it's fun to just chill and hang out with you. And then I'm also having this experience of like, and I'm sure we can have a conversation about this, but like I'm having this experience of like legitimate dread, like this time will end. And then it won't be until tomorrow around noon that I get to reconnect with the two of you. And just this sense of like, there's so many of my clients who are feeling isolated, and yeah, just this like thought, like, is this enough? I'm sure you two can relate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's true. For me, it's like what I love about what you just said, to piggyback off of Tim, is sort of this dichotomous, like that was my experience. So the dichotomy of my experience was I applied for the CERB this morning, which was the what does it stand for? The Canadian Emergency Revenue Benefit.
Relief?
Response.
Okay.
Response?
Response.
Relief. No, I think you're right. Relief benefit.
Relief.
Response. Either way, CERB. So I got to apply this morning, which felt really, really nice. So there's a weight that has been lifted as far as finances are concerned.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as I was feeling a really deep sense of relief, I'm also feeling a sense of like a low grade sense of anxiety around whether or not my kids are going to stay quiet.
Yeah.
And that was the weird thing. It's like, oh, this is really nice, and Tim is guiding me, and I'm connecting with my values. And then it's like, oh yeah, it feels really nice to be able to connect with my values, knowing that there's a couple thousands of dollars coming my way as relief. Yeah. And then like, oh my God, are my kids gonna mess this up? I hope they don't knock on the door. I hope they don't scream too loud.
Okay, gotcha.
See, and this is the kind of like live broadcast where I would argue like stuff like that is welcome. Have you two?
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking, I was like, hey, maybe later this week, I would love to have them here and just sit, even if it's for the first few moments of the meditation, to have them be a part of it too, because they know it's something that I do. It's something that I try to do with them. And then instead of like, just before we went live, I was like, okay, hang on guys, I got to go downstairs and like, and get their lunches, and came back up a little bit embarrassed thinking, did you hear me? Because I was like, no, you can't. And I was like kind of sharp and like rushing, again, that rushing theme of hurry up and let's go. But how cool would it be like, no, just come and sit. And then when you're done, cool, go do your thing then.
Go do your thing.
Yeah. I did a Zoom meeting the other day with, I teach, for those of you that don't know, I teach yoga teachers how to be yoga teachers. So we were doing like, now that we can't meet in person, we were doing like a yoga teacher training Zoom call to sort of go over some material. And both of my kids came in at the end of the call, and everybody said hi and bye to them. But it was just also cool because all of the teacher trainees were at their houses, and like their kids would walk in and give them hugs, or like dogs would jump on laps. And I was like, and that for me, that's one of the greatest things to notice in practices like this is it's all life. It's all my life, and it's all a part of living, and it's all happening right now.
I love it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I really like about scenarios like this is like, yeah, we're all social distancing. We're all like, some of us are stuck in our homes. Yeah. And yet we can still connect to the outside world and see what other people are just doing in their lives. And that
just for posterity, I just had this thought a moment ago, like if somebody catches this video like years from now, and this might also be like a cool kind of idea as like a journal almost for us, like to share like how us as like healthcare providers, how we've been experiencing this and processing this. So we are calling this a self-isolation support, because this is week 4 for me. I don't know about you two.
Week 5? No, week 4. Yeah.
Week 4. And Zenia, how about you?
Yeah, I think we all kind of, it was when my kids started March break. It was like March 12th. So
okay. So
the next day, this all kind of.
So that Monday, so the Monday before the 12th, I had already shifted my entire practice to online only. And I did have some clients who were not too happy about that. And I respect that. They really cherish the in-person connection.
Yeah.
So just for posterity, we are broadcasting this live right now. It's whatever the hell day it is in April 7th, 2020. And there is a novel coronavirus outbreak that we've been managing since, well, in Ontario, since about March 12th. Globally, since February is when it really started to gain traction in the media. And as of right now, there's confirmed 1,365,004 novel coronavirus cases and 76,507 deaths worldwide. Yeah. So
Crazy.
we're in self-isolation. So
Yeah.
what are you folks doing for self-isolation? Like, we go to the grocery store once a week, actually every other week, and we go outside once a day.
Yeah. We're the same. We go to grocery store about once a week, less if we can. And then, just trying to get outside with the kids as much as possible. But we're all like movie people too. Like, even my kids love movies. So it's like a great time to we've got an extensive DVD collection and we're just like rolling
through them.
Yeah.
So, fun fact, I grew up in, I'm going to date myself, but I think I might be in moderately similar company. I grew up legit in a video store. So my parents owned the first video stores in our area back when
what was it called? Was it a Dumbo Video?
Okay, no, it was before Jumbo Video.
Jumbo,
that was part of our decline, because they gave out free popcorn. No, it was called Super Beta, because it was beta.
Because you had beta tapes.
Because it was beta. It was before
we had a beta player.
Yeah. So movies, absolutely. Like, I grew up on movies, and I'll say, like, I've got a couple degrees. I think I'm a well-educated person, but I basically grew up in front of the TV.
Ditto.
So what is hilarious is that I don't want my kids to watch it right now. And I'm like, no, that's enough. We don't need to watch a movie every single day. I'm like, but like, honestly, when I was sick, I would go to the video store and my mom would put blankets down on the floor and I would watch movies all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had two working parents, so like when I got home from school, I was pretty much in front of the television most of the time.
But so for me, like, I moved my practice actually. So yes, it started with the school closures, and then I think I had maybe a couple days where we're seeing people out on the trails, because I do trail therapy. So I go when we're allowed to be around other people, and when the trails are open, because they're closed now for us.
Same here.
Parking lots are closed. So I guess if you can figure out a way to get in there without driving, that's a different can of worms. But so it's probably been maybe about 3.5 weeks since I've been not being in the trails and seeing people that way. So trying to manage it from home. So my kids get their TV time when I'm on clinical sessions, because they can't really pop in. I don't really want them to pop in.
Yes.
But my husband is still working. So
do you mind telling us and sharing publicly what kind of work your husband does?
Yeah, so he's a mechanic. So he's a small engine mechanic, and he works for an essential service. So he is still going in, because there's still jobs that are happening. So he has to still work. So he's in his shop. He's got his little area. They're following all the protocols they can. So he probably does a grocery shop once a week, because he's already out, whereas I stay home with the kids. And he's gone for 12 hours. Like, he's still out the door at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he's not home until after 5. Wow. And then school started this week. So trying to manage, I've got a kid in kindergarten, and then I got one in grade 4. So trying to manage how to do those pieces, but we try to get outside. I notice that if we're not outside by 10 o'clock going for a walk, we live in a small little hamlet that we're not very close together. So we can still kind of go out for a community walk, which I'm really happy about. But I notice if we're not out there by 10 o'clock and moving our bodies and getting that fresh air, it's not a fun scene here. And we're grumpy, and we're kind of snarky with each other. There's tears, and I don't just mean the kids. Usually I'm the first one in it. And just to let that happen. So we're trying to do that, trying to play with the dog. The dog is good because it helps us move around.
Totally.
To have some sort of structure, though, I'm noticing is really important. And it has to include outside of moving my physical body.
And how are you two managing like bringing groceries home and things like that?
We're not overly strict with that as much. Like we're not wiping everything down when it comes through the door. I know
Okay.
some people are definitely taking those sort of steps. It's not something that we're doing. But right now we're even when I go to the grocery store, if I'm buying something like ginger or something that's sort of like garlic, anything that's sort of like out, I'm putting in our own bags to put on scanners. And then only really, like, I hate doing it, but really only buying things that are packaged and not too open.
Yeah.
Like I even know that like the Metro near us, you can't get bulk mushrooms right now. Like all the mushrooms are in packages. So I really hate buying a lot of packaged stuff right now, but it's one way to like sort of keep ourselves safe.
Yeah. I mean, that's brilliant. I'm going to give a shout out to my uncle. He runs an asbestos removal company called Don Tom Abatement Services, and I was on the phone for a long time with my uncle Donnie yesterday, and he's a riot, and he's like, you know, we don't leave the farm, and he's like, when I go to the grocery store like once a week, he's like, I got my full hazmat on, I've got my gloves taped up, and people are looking at me like I'm crazy, but you know what?
I don't care.
I'm not getting this virus.
Yeah.
And his
I wear my mask. Whenever I go out, I got my mask on and my gloves. And good thing is my mother-in-law has started making masks.
Oh, cool.
So mine's like a print of like a Star Trek print with like the Enterprise and stuff on it. So
nice.
Is she selling them?
I think she might be. I can hook anybody up if they need to. I can hook her up.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I will for sure. Yeah, she makes really nice ones actually.
That's great. And I'll make sure I'll share the link in the description. Does she have like an Etsy page or anything? An email?
I think she let me check with her. I know that she does have. I think she does.
No, we want her home phone number in the description. Steve,
put demand.
Man, everybody's coming for you.
That's cool. And what region is she local to? Just so that, like, because we have a very international audience.
She's in the Hamilton area. Yeah, she lives just outside of Binbrook. But I'm sure she would be willing to ship things if that was the case.
Yeah. So we have our friend here, Ollie, just wrote in and said, hi from London, UK, working in the hospital. Ollie, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
You're keeping people alive. You're keeping the NHS going. We're not in the UK, but man, deeply, deeply respect what you're doing. It's pretty grim. Isolation is important, and precautions too. Nasty disease. Yeah. And sorry, I'm not sure if their name is Ollie or, but their screen name, their username is Grunfeld. So thanks for sharing. Shout out to you. If you want to join our call tomorrow, we're going to be on the same time, 12 noon Eastern. We'd love to hear just like what your experience is and have you join in on our meditation and yoga practice and just talk shop, debrief, or, you know, if not tomorrow, anytime, but yeah. And feel free to also respond in the chat. I'm monitoring it live. Is there anything that you two want to share with user Grunfeld here in the UK?
I think one of the things, just kind of talking about shopping, I maybe go out once every couple weeks to grab some other things that we may have missed or used. And what I noticed is like super impressed with how the grocery stores are running, whether it's like Costco or like a small little kind of, I have to go to Costco. It's where my dog food is from. But like how well organized and calm the workers are. So it's totally amazing. But what I realized myself is after the shop, or if I know my husband is coming home from the shop, I get super anxious. I feel my chest tightening up. I feel like I'm not breathing. I can become weepy. And I think it comes back to that sense of like, what's in my control, what's not in my control. We do wipe down. We do wipe down groceries. We wash the produce. We do those pieces, but just, it's like a weird, not quite present moment, but like shortly thereafter experience of I'm probably not breathing while I'm out in the store. And it's the once that safety comes where I know that I'm back, I'm safe, I'm in my own car, I'm in my own home, that all that stuff that I held in of nervousness or worry comes crashing down on me and will rock me, like to the point where like I will go and have a nap.
Yeah.
I will have to go and lie down. I will need to like there's sensory overload.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, and Zenia, I don't,
Yeah.
like, you know your stuff really well. You're a qualified social worker. You rock in your practice. So I'm just saying this generally, because I'm sure a lot of people can relate to what you're saying. I can relate to what you're saying. Do either of you have some helpful tips for people to manage that very unshakable anxiety?
So I'm just going in and taking a moment to really take a big, deep breath on purpose.
Yeah.
And with a big focus on the exhale. So I'm starting to, as I was noticing that pattern of what was happening with me.
Yeah.
Doing that once I get back into the car, doing the pieces that I need to do to feel that. And then, but also leaning into the experience instead of pushing it away and pretending that it didn't exist, pretending that anxiety is not there. I'm recognizing it. I'm calling it out for what it is. I experience it. And then I'm saying, cool, like yes, anxiety, you're there. I see you. Thank you for telling me that there might be some fear around. I'm good now. Yeah. So really kind of naming it, calling it what it is, instead of just pushing it away, being okay with that fact that I need to have some tears. Like tears are going to release some energy. That stuff has to come out. When it doesn't come out is when things get nasty.
Love it. Steve, I'm sure that you have something to throw into the mix, but I'm actually going to grab some of your expertise to answer a question. So just as a quick heads up, Bikash Shrestha, just I hope I pronounced that correctly, just said hello from Nepal. Videos are helping a lot. Thank you. Your patronage is helping a lot. And our friend Adir, which is an awesome screen name, and has a wicked avatar. It just looks like somebody literally screaming like like in the direction of the screen name. It's so dope. I don't know if you planned that. If you did, creative genius. If not, these are just the lucky things that happen in our lives. But ask this brilliant question: what does act-based self-isolation mean to you? What are some things people with depression, for example, can do to stay active, so to speak?
Yeah, for me, like as a movement guy and as a somatic practitioner and as a longtime meditator, part of my answer is sort of going to what Zenia was saying, is within the act stuff of like the acceptance stuff, is being able to recognize like this is happening. Like right now, life is crazy and we're all confused. Nobody really knows. And to take a moment to let that just be as it is, and then beginning to roll out practices as a way to mitigate some of the stuff that tends to form on top of that, right? Like the experience is the experience. And really what we're working with is more of what starts to get layered on top of that experience. So for me, breathing has become really, really helpful. It's always been helpful for me. But reconnecting to my body.
Are you saying specific breathing practices, Steve?
For me, like maybe a while ago, I used to do more specific breathing practices. And I know that like the slower exhales, focusing more on the exhale is helpful. But for me these days, even just to take a moment, and when we say breathe on purpose, I know a lot of the times that gets, the idea is that you're going to take a deep breath. And for me, breathing on purpose doesn't mean deep breathing. For me, breathing on purpose just means feeling my breath.
Intentional.
Like actually experiencing the sensations of an inhale and an exhale. And right now, that's actually, for me, I'm also not suffering from a lot of deep anxiety or depression right now, although I have in the past, is just being able to come back to what's happening, the sensations of things. And as far as a movement practice is concerned, I really don't have a problem with not moving. Like moving is kind of what I do. I'm like this most of the time anyway. So when I move in a planned way, it's just a guided way to do it. So it's this with a little bit of guidance. But
that meditation in motion.
Yeah, and just back to knowing that, especially for those of us, and I know this has been big with the people that I'm talking to, is like, they can't go to the gym right now. They can't do the forms of, they can't go running on the trails.
Can't
And
go out to dinner with a friend. Can't have a coffee.
exactly. And so, like, as from a movement perspective, one thing that I've been really sort of trying to focus on the clients and the people that I work with is not to think of exercise that needs to happen at a particular place for a particular duration of time. That we know, and there's like pretty clear data on that bodies and brains and minds love movement.
Yeah.
And that any moment is an opportunity to connect to that. So like one of the recommendations that I'll give to somebody is, if they're like waiting for water to boil for the pasta, is like push-ups on the countertop, or do some squats, do whatever movement, just connect to the body. And just to keep coming back to that. And that's what I do, is whenever I feel the anxiety beginning to arise, recognizing that it's there, accepting that there's a reason for it is, and for me, it's part of the confusion right now. And then just doing something to come back to my body. And that's always helpful for me.
So I'd like to throw this out there, and I'm going to go, and this is what's working for me right now. I'm going to say some old school behavioral activation. So what does ACT-based self-isolation mean to me? It means, even though many of my values may not be directly accessible to me, finding new roads that lead to those values. I am getting up at the crack of dawn every day. I am going to bed as early as I can every day to try and make sure that I'm well rested. I'm getting up and I am chugging some water. Let's all have a little water break right now. I think that's a George Carlin bit that I'm ripping off, but seriously, you know, I'm getting up extra early, and I'm forcing myself to take the dog on an early morning walk. Nobody is outside. The early light is golden. It's beautiful. I'm purposefully wearing running shoes. I'm recovering from a physical injury, so I'm just trying to encourage myself to move well and feel good. It's a reference on Steve's business name. And another big thing that that I really want to throw out there for you is, you know, Adir, anybody, you want to join this this Zoom call, you want to hang out with us, you want to have some social time, or social time with other people, whether it be Zoom calls, FaceTime, Skype, but get connected with other human beings, laugh, cry together, get pissed off at one another, whatever you got to do to be in a social space with other people, but make that happen for you. As we grow this this talk over multiple days, and I think we're going to be running this for multiple weeks. There's certainly is quite a lot of interest. We have many viewers right now, so I'm just going to throw this out there for you folks. We'll continue to help you build your self-care toolkit day in and day out. You keep asking us what you can be doing, but what does ACT-based self-isolation mean? How do we interpret self-isolation from an ACT lens? Yeah, you gotta figure out ways to connect with your values, because when you're spiraling deeper into depression, how do we define depression from an ACT perspective? We define it as lack of contact with meaningful reinforcers. And what we mean by meaningful reinforcers, that's just a basic science nerdy way of saying, yo, what's important to you? Who matters to you? What do you want your life to be about? And how can we help you live those qualities right now? It's easier for the three of us to distract ourselves, to numb out, for me to have another iced coffee. It's kind of a pain in the butt to set up this call and to make sure that, you know, like we've locked our doors and we have some quiet time, but this is in line. This is congruent with my values. So yeah, so we're here, we're with you folks. I hope that resonates with you, Adir. You know, I hope that we're giving you some ideas to stay active. Zenia, do you have anything you want to add to just staying active? You know,
I think one of the things for me, and I'd mentioned it before too, is I'm a big trail person. I'm a big forest person. I'm not a gardener. I would love to be, but I'm not. So one of the things that I'm really missing is getting out there and being in the trees, and recognizing that not everybody has access to maybe like a big yard. The weather's getting nicer. It's starting to get a little bit warmer out. So one of the practices that I've been doing is going out and finding a small patch of grass or dirt on my yard, taking off my shoes and socks, and just standing there and really feeling they're being rooted into the earth and connecting like earthing. And then from that, practicing those simple, so I'm all like, we're all yoga teachers too, right? So we're practicing kind of like a little bend in the knees with the sweeping up of the arms, like a little sun breath, just to kind of get into it and to feel that earth. It's been a long, cold winter, and here comes the sun. So like how we can use that and do some stuff on forest bathing. And I'd be happy to share this one of the other days of how can you go out and do forest bathing and do nature therapy and forest therapy when you're not leaving your property, but there's ways to do it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you caught this the other day, Prime Minister Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, he made this great comment where he's like, self-isolation is so important. You folks are doing great. Like if you need fresh air, go outside. If you don't have a yard to go out into, like open a window. And I was like, isn't that a Homer Simpson joke, right? Like, you want to enjoy the outdoors, open the window.
Yeah. Yeah. It all comes back to the Simpsons.
It all comes
back to the Simpsons.
So many lessons have been learned by the Simpsons.
Yeah.
Totally. Before we get into
my epidermis is.
Totally. Yeah, we definitely are all of the same generation, by the way. That joke just wouldn't have landed otherwise. So are either of you, and I'm happy to share my own paranoia and my own fears. What kind of fears are you two struggling with? What kind of paranoia are you guys rolling with during this time of the coronavirus outbreak?
Mine's mostly financial related. Is now that I can't really work, especially like even though yoga studios are really going online and that there's some work to do there, that just wondering how this is really going to roll out as far as like how to afford things and where's the next little bit of money coming from.
Can I ask a very personal question, in which case you can feel free to say nope, not answering that. Is and Zenia, I know that you're renting space as well for your office. You're not in your office, you're at home.
I'm at home.
Are either of you getting a break on your leases at all?
No, well, our landlord. Well, my landlord is a really, really nice guy, and we have a beautiful relationship with him. And specifically, we live in a house where we're on the top floor and somebody else is on the bottom floor. But we sort of take care of the property, so we have this really beautiful relationship with our landlord. And because of that, he's giving us breaks because he knows that we're honest people who want to be able to pay rent as consistently as we can. And so far that hasn't been affected, but he's very on board with giving us a break, which I'm very grateful for and appreciative of.
It's nice to hear that story because I'm hearing a lot of stories where landlords are unable to give breaks. I saw a tweet the other day where somebody said, I didn't realize that my landlord was also living from my paycheck to my paycheck.
Yeah.
For sure they are, right? Like I said no right away, like, no, I'm not getting a break. But at the same time, I haven't asked for one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As part of it. I haven't asked for one. Am I using it? I'm not using it in the same way. My building is locked to the public. So the only people that can have access to it are the people that do have office space in there. And like there's a midwives in there. So they have other rules about when, pregnant mama needs to come in and see the midwife, that, they're staying in their car until it's their appointment time, until they get the call. But I do try to go up there once a week, usually on the Saturdays when my husband's home, because I love that space. And for me, it's a way of connecting with my goals and my values, which is why I do the work that I do.
Cool.
So I go there and I use it that way, where if I need, because I'm with my kids all the time and I love them dearly, but they're too little for me to go out for a walk by myself, right? So I'm always with them. So when he's home, I can go and take that time up there, do some work, feel kind of grounded in it. So I haven't asked for a break on it because I am still using it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hopeful that we'll get back in there. So it's not something that I want to give up. I know I have friends and colleagues that have given up bricks and mortar yoga studios that have moved online and said, I'm not reopening.
Yep.
Selling their stuff. So that's kind of hard to see. But I think my biggest like kind of fear and paranoia right now is knowing how important the work that we do as mental health providers, that and I've talked with Tim, with me and you a little bit about this too, is that I don't like, I want to keep offering the stuff that I want to offer. But I also still need to live on myself, and really not wanting to look like I'm being opportunist and trying to come off and like take advantage of people that are, that's not my intention. And I've heard other people, friends, other therapists, other yoga teachers that are moving their things online and still charging, because people come back and saying, well, why aren't you offering all this stuff for free? And I think it comes back to, because we still also need to be paying our rent, paying our mortgages, paying maybe for multiple spaces, paying for our clinical database that stores all of our stuff to help with people's privacy, right?
Also paying for groceries.
Yeah.
Paying your insurance.
Paying for our living and life. Yeah.
Dog food, paying for dog food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I can find it.
When you can find it. Yeah.
The last couple times I've gone, it's a popular brand.
Yeah. I maybe I'm going to share my fears and paranoia next session. Yeah. I have many.
Yeah.
Most of them are rooted in economic issues. Mm-hmm. I'm also really concerned about whether or not folks are seriously taking social distancing to heart. I have a lot of worries about the very significant PTSD that our healthcare, our fellow colleagues who are working in hospitals are going to be suffering. I know that Ontario has not yet, so the province that we live in, the three of us, has not yet hit the suspected sort of peak, and we're not seeing anything like what's happening in New York State, or most certainly New York City. But I'm concerned about the long-term kind of toll that this is going to take on us economically and emotionally. We're asking a lot of healthcare workers.
Yeah, I just finished I was taking a little professional development, taking a trauma course that I just finished over on the weekend. And the last little assignment for our discussion group was to talk about like, what were your takeaways and kind of that gratitude piece. And I think my post was a little bit, I can't access it now because the course ended. I wanted to go back and copy it, but it was talking about like what we're witnessing, like watching, we started the course talking about 9/11 and kind of the traumatic response from that. And then realizing that throughout the course, we're living a traumatic experience and we're watching it in like slow motion, right? It's this prolonged, we're watching it live, we're being in it live, and recognizing when we start to talk about, what are the symptoms of somebody that's struggling with PTSD or trauma related, and going, that's happening to me right now, is watching it. And then talking about the compassion fatigue or the secondary trauma that as caregivers, and I'll say professional and informal caregivers, the true formal ones, of the fact that we are within family, we have other
vicarious traumatization. Yeah.
And then watching it
that's legit,
living it and watching it happen. Like you're in a deja vu going, this is what's happening right now.
All right. Before we wrap up for today, Steve, do you want to guide us through a brief movement practice? Are you open to that?
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Okay, cool.
So whether you're seated on the ground or seated in a chair, you could also be doing this standing up. Any position is really fine. We'll take a moment to, especially if you're sitting, to place your hands on your knees or your thighs. And if you are in a standing position, then you might just place the palms of your hands either on your thighs or on your hips. And then we'll start to move through just some spinal movements, what are known as some cat-cow type movements. And so the beginning of that is to imagine as though your pelvis was like a bowl. And the beginning of the movement is that you'll start to pour some water out of the front of your bowl, out of the front of your pelvis. And so as you do that, then the belly will move forward and the chest will start to open up. You might even draw the shoulder blades a little bit closer together. And then as much as it allows, taking the chin up and allowing some movement in the neck. And maybe even, especially if you're in seated, adding a little bit of a pull of the hands on the knees. Like you wanted to pull your arms slightly behind you. So you're moving into a bit of a back bend. And then we'll take one big inhale here. And then on the exhale, start to find the opposite where you'll pour the water out of the back of your pelvic bowl, round the spine behind you, and then start to drop the head. And as you do that, I even like to add a little bit of a reach of the arms forward. Feeling how the shoulder blades get slightly away from the spine. Some more broadness across the upper back. And then we'll come into the first position again, rocking the pelvis forward. The belly moves forward, the chest opens up, and the head lifts. And then on an exhale, reversing, the pelvis rolls back, the spine rounds, the head drops. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhaling to rock forward, belly forward, chest forward, head lifts. And then pelvis rolls back, spine rounds behind you, head drops. 1 more time, pelvis rocking forward, belly goes forward, chest goes forward, head lifts up. And then pelvis rocks back, spine rounds out, head drops. And as you find that position, the more rounded position, which we might call a cat, taking a couple breaths here into the area of the upper back. Knowing that usually when we're guided breath, we're usually guided breath to the front side of the body. And knowing that it's also very important to get some breath moving on the back side. Good. And then we'll come back to more of a neutral position. From there, we'll take the fingers, interlace them, and then begin to move the arms forward and then up towards the ceiling. And again, if the neck allows, taking the gaze up towards the hands. Right? And as you do that, pressing the palms of the hands up, reaching from the shoulders through the hands. If you're in a seated position, at the same time, rooting down through your bum, your sit bones. If you're in a standing position, pressing down through the feet. Simultaneously rooting down as you reach up. We'll take 1 more big breath here. And then as you exhale, taking your right hand down onto the floor if you're in seated on the floor, or the arm of a chair, or just down to your thigh if you're in standing. We'll start to add a brief side bend towards the right. Feeling how the distance between the left ribs and hips a little bit longer, the distance between the right ribs and hips is a little bit shorter. Some of you might even take the gaze more up towards the left arm. And not necessarily trying to get something specific out of this, but just noticing, okay, what are the sensations here? What does this feel like? 1 more breath in. As you exhale, bringing the left arm down, the spine back to center. We'll take the right arm up. The left hand comes down onto the floor, the arm of the chair, or just the thigh. Starting to add a side bend towards the left. Again, feeling for that distance, that new length that's being created between right ribs and hips. The gaze could be down towards the floor. It could be up towards the hand. And if while you're here, there is like a specific sensation that you're kind of looking for, if you try to get that, just notice, how do you get it? If you're trying to get a stretch somewhere, like on your side or in your armpit, like what do you do with your body to get that sensation? Let's inhale, come back up to center, maybe both arms reaching up. 1 more time, interlace the fingers, press up as you root down. And then we'll bring hands back to heart center, one of my favorite places. And heart center is one of my favorites. Yeah. And it's sort of like what we were talking about before, that reconnecting with the body doesn't actually take a lot of time. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something specific. It can just be any movement and feeling how that movement happens, or any breath and feeling how that breath moves. Really to bring us back to this moment and what's happening in this moment.
Very nice, Steve. Beautiful practice.
Quick and simple.
I like that. Quick and simple.
That was awesome. Thank you.
So just by way of letting you folks know how you can join us here live on the YouTube channel. You can also email me directly, tim@thezensocialworker.ca, to receive a login and password to meet with us on Zoom. And tomorrow, Zenia, I think that you won't be with us, so it'll just probably be Steve and myself, and maybe Grenfeld will join us.
Yeah.
I could always pop in late.
Yeah. Oh, you're definitely welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a club that wants you as a member, Zenia.
Thanks.
And just as a heads up to folks, you can also email in anything that you want us to talk about, whether it be questions about mental health and self-isolation, some movement practices. You just want to commiserate with us, and definitely take care of yourselves. We're here for you folks.
Yeah.
Beautiful practice, you two. Thank you for showing up to this and bringing yourselves here. This was really cool.
Yeah, thanks for setting it up and letting us be a part of it.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll see the two of you tomorrow at noon.
Sounds great.
Okay.
I'll trickle in fashionably late.
Grunfeld just wanted us to know that they're a PT in a hospital in the UK, and Bikash wanted us to know that there's not too many cases. I looked it up, Bikash, and it looks like there's about 9 cases in Nepal of the novel coronavirus, and there's 1 person recovered so far. No deaths reported in Nepal. But Bikash says, and I think this is really cool, taking social distancing seriously. And Bikash followed up with saying, "Thank you all for sharing your thoughts." And Grenfeld says, "Thank you, enjoyed that."
Thanks for being here with us.
That's right. And thank you to the many people who have joined this stream live to watch it. This is so cool. Oh my gosh. Adia responded. It says, "Thank you so much for responding. I stumbled on this by accident. We'll tune in next time you do this." Was literally lying down and I'm now getting my day going again.
Nice.
Listen to me, Adia. If I was a dog, my tail would be wagging so hard right now. I love hearing you say that. Oh, my friend Vicky Brown is on here saying, "Great initiative." Hey, Vicky, you better be doing okay. You better be taking care of yourself wherever you are in the world. All right, folks. Have a lovely, lovely Tuesday, April 7th. It's been a pleasure having your energy here with me. Thanks, you two.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye, folks.